Hop on with us as we dive into the latest topics, share some laughs, and bring you insightful conversations in and around the realm of ag. From down-home wisdom to cutting-edge tech, we've got what you need to fuel your curiosity. So tune in, relax, and let's kick back. On the Tailgate, presented by Wade Incorporated.
I'm your host again, Cade Moody. I have my co-host with me, Gaston Line, and our fearless producer, Riggs Ware.
How you doing?
Yeah. Got some special guests with us again today from the IntelliFarm team, which is the team I'm a part of. So excited about this. We got Patrick Johnson, who's an IntelliFarm specialist for our Columbus, Greenwood, and Grenada stores and the Sumner store. And then we got Johnny Marshall, who is our director of IntelliFarm, who's got years of experience in the business and was one of the reasons we have an IntelliFarm department. So got some exciting stuff today. Appreciate y'all joining us, making time on a rainy day to come hang out and talk a little bit about Operations Center. So we're going to get into the weeds on all things Operations Center. Looking at doing two parts since there's a lot to break down here. So we're doing part one today. We'll get as far as we can, and then you'll see part two coming in the coming weeks. So stay tuned for that. But Patrick, you see Op Center with customers all the time. You're probably, as I refer to you, the digital farm manager for a lot of operations in your areas. So what are some of the high level, what are some of the benefits that you're seeing from customers? What's some of the reasons customers say, I want an Operations Center account?
The number one reason is efficiency. In other words, we want to see client farm fields. We don't want to see trash in the account. And what I mean by that is field names with no boundaries, no guidance tracks. And, of course, they love the mobile app where they can track their equipment just from wherever they are. They may not even be close to the farm, or they may be, having to run an operation 20 miles away and have something, another operation going on elsewhere. But right there from their mobile app, they're able to track everything going on all the way down to the detail. But to do that, it's got to be a clean account. And that's where we've been spending our time, especially this winter, is working on cleaning these account ups. That way, when they open up Op Center, they see exactly how precise they want it in reality. They're seeing it digitally on their computer.
Op Center's like your master copy, your ideal master copy. In a perfect world, this is what my farm looks like.
Correct. Yes.
So then when somebody calls from a tractor and they're having problems, you have that master copy to reference and try to get them back going.
Yep. So Johnny, can you speak on the history, I guess, of Op Center? What was before Op Center? Was there any kind of tracking system out there that we were using? Then the data came on. Just kind of give us a brief history of that.
Well, as Cade alluded to, that I'm sort of the grandfather of all this stuff.
I saw that. That was a shot, man.
Well, no, not a shot. No, I'm
kidding.
I'm admiring the wisdom.
There you go. Yeah.
The gray hair show. No, John Deere, because I've been in this role since 2006 working with Wade Incorporated. And when we first started, there was really no tracking mechanism like what you're talking with JD Link, where you can see your equipment and so forth. You just had desktop software, Apex. And it did a lot, but it doesn't do near where we are today with the Operations Center. Mostly what it was used for was to make pretty picture maps, download and harvest and planting into Apex. And like I said, that's all you had was a map. You were not able to analyze a lot of stuff with it that you got the capabilities to do today with the Operations Center. Definitely couldn't see your equipment. So when the Operations Center came about, it has in 2014, it has really grown. It came on a little clunky, but it has really progressed since then. And like I said, like Patrick mentioned just a few minutes ago, it's all about efficiency, making your customers more efficient with the information they have. The better information you can pull into the Operations Center, the better decisions you can make on all that.
So with Apex, because I started this industry in 2020, late 2020. So I didn't get to see Apex, and the more I hear about it, the more I'm actually glad about that. But was there any wireless features to Apex, or was it all thumb drive or?
The last couple years of Apex, it was some wireless data features. So as JD Link came on board in 2010, they were able to get machines online. You could send prescriptions. You could send your lines wirelessly to the connected machines at the time. So it was not, I'm going to say, complete dummy, but we could use it. But it was crude.
Was Apex a local program, or was it on the cloud? It was like web-based, like Operation Center is?
It was web-based.
It was web-based, okay.
To begin with, it was on your computer, but then at the last ones, it was more web-based.
Patrick, can you speak on the importance of kind of twofold, maybe you get what you put into it, and then the importance of clean data, because I hear a lot of the time where you're in there cleaning up a customer's account, preseason, postseason, just speak on the importance of that in Op Center.
Yeah, so I mean, it truly is. Trash in is trash out at the end of the season, and especially in the markets we're in now. Number one, commodity prices are very low. Equipment prices are high. They're paying a lot of money, but that equipment's so capable of recording everything. Every action that's going on that farm is capable of being recorded. And the whole purpose of that is, you start at the beginning of the year, you start clean with clean client farm fields. You get the in-field data sharing between the equipment, so the equipment's able to see, the field coverages up to 6 tractors, 6 pieces of equipment running in one field.
Which that is absolute nightmare to set up if you don't have a fantastic setup file or data sync turned on. Almost impossible for 3 operators to go to the field.
Yes, you'll get calls all day with a farmer complaining that they can't get 3 tractors.
Yeah, and it's something as simple as the first guy's client is Moody Farm, and the second guy's client is Moody Farms. Everything else is perfectly matched. But that's all. There are people out there, I would say, that is worth them having an Operation Center account.
No doubt.
Infield data sharing, because they can't run without. You got 2 sprayers in the field, you can't run without infield data sharing.
And typically, one tractor or sprayer or combine will enter that field first.
Right. Yeah.
You'll have a lead machine. Well, if he's capable of creating the job, and 2 other machines can come in behind him and pick up that job,
That's huge.
everything's seamless.
Yep.
Nobody's wasting time. There's no stopping. And so, and then you make it through the year, you've got spray records that are accurate if you need to turn those in or get checked. But at when harvest is over, you've got accurate data. You don't have the skips in the fields. You can start narrowing down, if you did different fertilizer, if you made some changes agronomically. If you did strip trials, if you did, different fertility programs or planted prescription mounts based on, irrigated versus dry. I mean, it's just down to the detail where you can analyze and see where you made money, where you didn't.
Yeah, what worked, what didn't work.
What works. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
You take everything you want to try, or everything that Mississippi State University has told you about, or the local, ag publications has said, and you do it on your farm.
Exactly.
And you've got a seamless way to document it and then put it to the test at the end of the year.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's but that has to be done before the season starts.
And it can be, yes, and it can take some time.
It can.
You
Yeah.
go, so Johnny mentioned Op Center's been up since 14, is that right?
Yes.
Well, it's one thing to put boundaries, get boundaries into a farm. I mean, these chemical companies or these guys pulling soil samples have had boundaries on most of these farms for years. And, we've imported them over the years, but nothing's ever been touched. Well, some of these connected machines are sending data back, but it's sending data back to wrong field names.
Mm-hmm.
It's guidance tracks aren't associated to the correct fields. And so, a farmer logs in, and I have had an example of this last week. A farmer came in here. He hasn't been using Op Center. And the whole reason why is when he logged in, he just saw trash. He couldn't get the use out of it because the account just needed cleaning up.
And probably had no idea where to start.
And didn't have any idea where to start. And so when you get to that point, that can be a couple of hours sit-down meeting with that guy of getting his farm, depending on the size of the farm. That could take a while. But he will make that back up very quick in efficiency, spending a little time in the winter.
Yeah. Well, I kind of want to back up a little bit, and I'm just intrigued by this. When Op Center came on, what was kind of the approach to getting those boundaries in? We've mentioned maybe the farmer could have had a software already, maybe that had them. You had them drawn out on papers. Was that a kind of a big hurdle at the start? Because, that's what the basis of all this, it begins with those boundaries. We got some things where we can track equipment and that not tied to a boundary or whatnot, but that's how everything gets going.
When we first got going with the operations center, majority of our farmers, the information they were collecting on the combines, especially because, harvest maps was the main thing we were collecting. We did that back in the late 90s. And be honest with you, the farmers saw it as pretty pictures and filled the shelves up with books and wasn't able to do anything with it. So when the operations center first came out, the first thing we had to start showing was benefit of the information. And of course, like Patrick said, the first thing to Operations Center is visual. So if you go into it and you don't have boundaries, you don't see anything. Mm-hmm. And finding things is terrible to try to go through and find something, guidance lines or anything if you don't have proper boundaries. So, a lot of guys through their chemical company like Simplot had boundaries that they had created for them, so we were able to import those in there and give them some sort of visual representation of their farm. We also sent gators around and drove people's boundaries using RTK. So there's multiple ways, and draw some just like you mentioned. So that's usually the first step, is getting some good boundaries created in their account, and then all of a sudden it becomes visual. They can see their farm when they first log in.
Yep. And I'll say, talking to that, he's exactly right. So when Kate and I first started having some meetings, and you try to use, maybe a demo farm to show them Op Center, and it just didn't resonate very well. It didn't sell them on anything because it wasn't their farm. Yep. It didn't matter. You could show them every aspect of Op Center on that demo, but until they saw their boundaries, their shop yard, their equipment, that's when the eyes started getting open.
And on that, that's the same thing. We've talked about this. We do enjoy having some sort of a winter clinic every year, to get the masses in, get a lot of customers in, get them in front of whatever the latest technology is. And we'll continue to do that. But really the value with Op Center and some of this equipment technology that depends heavily on Op Center comes from that one-on-one sit down with your local IntelliFarm specialist.
Oh, you got to have it.
Yes, got to have it because it's their farm. There's no, they're not reserved. It's their information in a private setting, and we're working on your farm right now.
Because every farm's at a different level, and so you've got to have that one-on-one. You can have a clinic. A clinic is great to introduce some new technologies, but if you got a farm that's sitting in that clinic that has just created an Op Center account. And then in that same clinic, you got a farm that's been in Op Center for 3 years.
Yeah,
that's two total different wavelengths of information that they're on. So the one-on-ones are critical.
Yeah, hard to talk to that room.
It is.
Or hard to maximize what they take in from that meeting.
Yep.
Going back, Johnny, to what you said earlier about drawing boundaries or RTK. Why is RTK better than sitting and drawing them?
Well, if you're using all the technology that John Deere has available, just for example, you can say the Exact Emerge planter. When you set the boundaries up, you set up interior boundaries for your turn rows. You just think of the seed savings as you approach that turn row and your planter units start turning off individually, so you're saving seed. A typical farm, 3 to 5% of the land is turn rows and pads. So you're saving 3 to 5 cents of your percentage of your acreage on seed just by being able to turn your planters on and off. You take that to section control on your sprayers as well, and so there you got more savings. So the better the boundaries, then all that stuff is turning off at the exact right moment instead of going by. I can remember some of our old boundaries when we first started doing this would be 50 yards inside the field. So the better the boundaries, the more effective the equipment is.
So what you're saying is, like, if you drew a boundary, sometimes it'd be off than what actual running an RTK line. Or
if you drew a boundary, you could possibly be 10 to 30 feet off. And so,
guaranteed.
Yeah. So, the picture might not even represent what's there today. So if you're going by Google Earth, somebody might have cut that hedgerow down and you don't know it, so you're drawing based on what you see there, and that's not matching. That's not a representation of his real farm.
So on that, when I started rigs, when I was helping customers get their accounts set up and get boundaries in, I would zoom way in and draw these perfect boundaries. I mean, like, beautiful, following the row, the end of the row perfectly. Mm-hmm. I get a phone call from that customer. Said, "Is there a reason my sprayer just turned off 30 feet inside the field?" I was like, "I have no idea. Let me go ask Johnny." Johnny's like, "How'd these get in here?" I said, "I drew them." He said, "That's why." I said, "But I drew them so good." He said, "Doesn't matter. The satellite image is garbage." So yeah, that's if the boundary is drawn in the system, no equipment function needs to be run off of that boundary.
Yeah.
You can lose it. You can use it to help you organize the data, but outside of that, and equipment function, and that was kind of what I want to talk about next, was the importance of boundaries from, you mentioned getting them from your retailers and stuff. The boundary used to be for the agronomic data, and it was a way to help you organize what variety did I put here, or what did this field harvest.
It was record keeping.
Right, exactly. It was to help you organize it.
Yeah.
And now it is there are multiple technologies out there. The boundary runs the machine.
Yeah. Even though your RTK, we have separate, 26 different towers within our AOR. Running the correct tower, you could be 10 inches off if you were on the wrong tower when you were recording the boundaries versus how you run your guidance lines and so forth. And even with the new SFRTK, those might not match what your tower is. So it's very important that your boundaries be driven with what the farmer is going to be using for that location as well.
So we speak on boundaries, and then the next thing that comes to mind is connected equipment. So we're always talking. We've talked about it on this podcast before. We're always pushing the new stuff out there, and we're just always impressed by the next thing that John Deere's put out, and it's a lot of it's integrated now. But how far back can we go? What can we track? I think there's some security reasons for that, and then to know what your people are doing on your farm. So I guess either one of y'all just kind of speak on what type of equipment you see in Ops Center that's tracked, and then how to get connected if you don't have a newer piece of equipment.
Well, with the technology they have now, especially the M modems from John Deere, which is the most basic modem they have, we have the capabilities of putting that on anything. If it's got a 12-volt battery, we could put it on a scooter if you want to follow rigs around while you're riding the scooter. I
haven't been on a scooter since like Jincho. Downtown.
That's because we haven't been able to track you. We're on to you now,
right.
buddy.
Like I said, if it's got a 12-volt battery, we can put a modem on it and be able to track it just for viewing where something is. We have razor trackers that we got customers putting on their farm equipment. Farm trucks. So they know where all their labor is at all the time and make sure they're at the right places that they're supposed to be. We got them putting it on semis to where they know when the semis are going to be.
It's a big one. Yeah.
are going to be back in the field. They don't have to call them on the phone anymore and say, where are you? Is the line moving? They can see that just by pulling up their operations center.
About to say that's all linked in.
All linked in.
One of those third-party connections that you can do.
Say a customer has a mixed fleet, could he put them on?
Yes. There again, like I said,
Don't want to say the word.
it rhymes with that, so we'll go with that.
Rhymes with bed.
But
Yes,
gas-
like I said, if it has a 12-volt battery source, we can put it on it. It's not color related. There are several things where we can capture information from third-party equipment, and get it into the operations center.
Big thing too that we're running into now is, 2 calls this morning and last week multiple calls is, we still run a lot of 2630s. There are a lot of, a good many Gen 4s, but when they first came out, they came out with V1 processors, which is still basically a 2630. And that software version only goes so high. It's tops out at like a 2017 software, and we're at a 2025 now.
There's a lot there, yeah.
There's a lot there, and so some of this newer technology is it's beyond just like your iPhone. There's apps that run now that won't run on an iPhone 5. So think of it that way. That's kind of what we're dealing with now. Getting 2630s out, getting Gen 4s or G5s, V2 processors in, and getting that to the latest, greatest software.
You look at a 2630, it was introduced in 2006. So, we've come a long way since then. The Gen 4 came out in 2014 along with Operations Center. They came out together, and, the technology has grown so fast and gotten so beyond even the Gen 4s now. The Gen 5s will do so much more than that equipment. And, if a customer's going to stay engaged, as I like to call it, they've got to update technology. And sometimes they don't understand the reason why they need to. But the older technology just cannot keep up with where we are today.
Just an easy testament to that is cranking a tractor with a Gen 4 versus cranking a tractor with a Gen 5.
Oh, yeah.
That Gen 5 is on, in a matter of seconds. That Gen 4 will sit there and give you that spool for
2 minutes.
for a while.
Oh,
yeah.
Yep.
And that just, what is it? I think it's 2, maybe 3 times the processing speed. I can't remember the exact multiplier, but it's substantially faster. And there's a reason they want them on See and Spray machines. And now that these S7s, these new model year 25 S7s are out, there's a lot going on in those machines that Gen 5 is needed for. Yeah. So look, talked about boundaries. Got to have good boundaries. It's going to, yes, take care of your agronomic data, but also going to help run that equipment. And there's some features that we'll talk about in part 2 that are going to require a boundary. But another thing I want to discuss that I feel like is at the fundamental level of Operations Center is guidance tracks, and not just your row tracks, but also, Patrick, talk a little bit about what we're hearing customers do with adaptive curves, especially how we operate here in Mississippi with irrigation and ditches.
So the guidance track, guys, I've seen some op center accounts with 400 and 500 guidance tracks, fields with 7 guidance tracks. A lot of that is going out there. Some of that's tillage, some of that's a combine track. There, ideally, and the farmer will tell you, I rode up this fall. I've got my 12-row straight track here, and I'm gonna plant on this same, track come planting season. And then he may have a track for a sprayer or something like that. So, 2 or 3 guidance tracks in the field, especially the way we plant, turn row to turn row on a bedded row. That's pretty clean. 8, 9 tracks in the field. That goes back to efficiency. That tractor driver's got to get in that field, set up that job. Well, then he's got to find what track he's supposed to be on. So and then you talked about adaptive curve. So what some farmers are doing, it's a great idea, is, there's always a guy on a farm, and he's usually an older fella that knows how to run water first. But he's the only one on that farm that knows how to run water first. So we've got farmers now that have adapted to this, taking an adaptive curve, and you start running your water first, and you can pause it. So you make your run, to where you need to run, you pause it, you move, and then you've got, that is one saved set of tracks. It's technically one track, but when you click on it, it populates all the water first for that one field.
That's what I was about to ask. Field,
Yes.
farm, how can you?
Down to the field.
Field, okay. Yeah.
And that way, that guy's not available, he's retired, whatever the case may be, anybody can get on that tractor and go run water first.
Just make sure they're RTK. Right.
And that will make sure they're RTK, for sure.
You're seeing that also with your irrigation, where they lay the poly pipe year after year on the pad. Some of them, those cut across the field, and it's got to be in that right spot for the water to run. So they're RTK mapping where that poly pipe was the year before.
And look, had a customer the other day, took that adaptive curve and used that to then go back to the field, and this takes us in another part of boundaries, what we discussed lightly is interior boundaries. He drove that poly pipe adaptive curve and created an internal boundary. So he put a 3-foot offset on the first pass to his left. He spun around, kept that 3-foot offset on his left, rode that pad. Now he has an internal boundary. They went across it at 8 miles an hour with an exact emerge planter, and it saved them 6 feet of seed across that entire field.
Yep.
Then you don't have to go back with the disc and disc the pad up or
No,
spray that
yeah.
pad or
Yeah.
whatever.
And the seed, yeah, like to Johnny's point, the 2% seed savings if you do this across the farm on turn rows and pads. I mean, there's a lot to be said about that, and that's kind of a perfect picture of combining a lot of these technologies.
Oh, yeah.
That's the guy. He has the right equipment. He has the Gen 5, Gen 4, Gen 5 on his planter that's running the new electric drive planters. He's got the boundaries that are built in Operation Center, and he's got an operator in the cab that has the know-how to select the correct boundary. Or, like we'll talk about in part 2, they used Work Planner to make sure that stuff was in the machine.
Yep. Again, it starts with clean.
Starts with the boundary,
Start-
starts with clean.
Yep.
Exactly.
Getting those boundaries clean, and then, like I said, all those A-B lines, you don't have to hunt for them if they're in the boundary they're supposed to be in.
That's
So
correct.
that's just, it all starts with the boundaries.
Yep.
I think we've come such a long way in that helping get that data clean on the front end. I in my short time in ag retail and dealing with these boundaries and prescriptions and things like that, it was we did some record keeping in different years of trying to help growers. It wasn't saying here's the best. It was just an option, and we'll just assist you kind of with this. And it was scary. I mean, it would be so much, and there was sometimes more offered that you would want to get that information, but then they couldn't supply it, and all. It's just a combination of a bunch of different things. But it seems like the support is there, and it's so much easier now to help get that information clean on the front end and the back end.
Yep.
That y'all do a great job of, and I know that it's seems like it's easier on the customer, and they're not as afraid to go in there and get it right.
Yep.
And
I can't talk enough about Mobile Op Center.
Mm-hmm.
And the updates to it over the last couple of years. I mean, for these farm managers who, when their day starts, they don't know where they're going to be.
Wide open.
1 minute they're here, 10 minutes later they're heading, 15 miles away to another tractor. Mobile Op Center allows them to track, exactly what's going on. A farmer can call, he can RDA, remote display into that, into that guy's display, and he may be able to fix a problem. We're talking 30 seconds. You don't know. So, it's changed the whole scope of him being able to manage without having to drive all the way to that tractor. So we hear that a lot.
Yeah.
you want to speak on RDA before we end part one? RDA.
Who, me?
Well, anybody.
Well, no, Patrick.
I mean, he spoke. He mentioned it, so I think it may need to be discussed on what we're doing with RDA.
It goes back to connected machines. So, You have a modem, obviously, that we're at 4G modems. An Ethernet cable is run from the modem that's tying the display in along with the receiver, and you have that JD Link connectivity to that equipment. Well, from that point up forward, you have, when you log into your mobile ops center or from the computer, either way, you have a RDA session that you can enter. So you go to that tractor and you hit RDA, and it will ding that operator that's sitting in that tractor, let him know somebody's logging in, and you're seeing exactly what he's looking at. He can check how fast is he planting, why is he stopped, what codes is he are being thrown,
What button to hit?
yeah,
You know.
what's his population. He can look at everything he needs to look at right there, along with the operator.
RDA is just a really good tool. You look at it, our service departments use it. So if a customer, whether it's a combine planter, we're getting into planter season now, so we'll talk about a planter. If a customer's having an issue with a planter, the technician, all they have to do is log into that customer's display, and they can see what the customer's seeing from the shop and be able to help the customer walk through and see if he sees the issue and can fix the issue without having to drive 30 miles to that customer. We also, can utilize it for a lot of other things, looking at just going in, looking at settings to compare two machines versus, two planters to two combines or whatever to each other to make sure everything's operating as efficiently as possible.
Yeah, it's a good tool. So
Used a lot.
Yes.
used
Yes,
a lot.
a lot.
Used a lot. No, and there's no fee. JD Link is free. RDA is free. It will time out after like 10 minutes, but you have the option to hit refresh, so you can stay in there. I got some guys that'll stay in it all day long,
Well,
like they're watching a TV when their combine are going to the field.
We have some customers that's what they do. They literally go from one tractor to the next and just steadily watch what their other guys are doing to make sure that everything's functioning the way they want it to.
Yep.
And that's a key feature, but I think of the support. That's what I go to. I know that's what y'all are using it a bunch for, and I can think back a long time ago when there was like, I need to just see that screen to be able to tell you which way to go, what button to push.
There's very few phone calls that we take where we don't log into
Yeah.
that tractor.
And I'm sure they're appreciative for it as well.
So,
They're like, hey, hop in with me.
Yeah.
Let's look at this together.
For
It
sure.
just, you feel so much more connected.
Well, listen, and the other side of that is when I take that phone call and I'm trying to support that customer and I can't see, and then we'll resort to FaceTime. But good luck
Yeah.
reading a display. FaceTime when this guy's 72 miles away from the nearest cell tower. I can't even tell. Is that the display? He's like, no, that's my face. I'm like, okay, well, turn it around.
Well, things are so much
How do
more.
I turn it around? That old.
They're so much more customizable now. I mean, everything we have, you customize it how you want to look. So you don't know if this guy's and this guy's screen's going to look the same.
Exactly.
And they can get pretty frustrated if you're not telling them the right button to push.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yep. Well, I'm going to recap. Fundamentals are obviously get your machines online, get your displays online, Ethernet cables. If you can't see the display in Op Center, you're removing a lot of that value. Get your other machines online, get those trucks online, those semis online. Get an Operation Center account built. If you don't have an Op Center account, they're free. Get an Equipment Mobile account, which we'll talk about that in a later episode. And then get good boundaries, good RTK boundaries as you farm the land.
Yes.
And then what can you do with all that? We'll discuss that on the next episode of On the Tailgate.